Welcome in, Believe in Commanders podcast, part of the Believe Network. We are brought to you by FanDuel. I'm Scott Jackson. That is number 13, Anthony Armstrong, former Washington Redskin wide receiver. And we are on the eve of the OTAs. First on-field session for the media at Commanders Park. And exciting time of the year. Please comment, like, and follow the podcast. And also, comment. But, make sure you download it and subscribe and tell your friends and so on and so on and so forth. But, Anthony, hope you enjoyed the 3-day weekend as much as I did. And now it's exciting because we got football, man, for these next several weeks with these, once a week little glimpses into what the Commanders are going to look like.
Yeah, we get to complain about it being not real football. They're just in jerseys and shorts and shells. But damn it, this is the best we got for now. This is the best we got of NFL action, of the Commanders on the field doing their thing. And you want to see and hear about growth. Obviously, we can't be there for each and every day, but you just hope they're stacking good days, right? I just remember the great tight end Jason Witten, who used to always say, hey, man, just make a play a day. And if you can do that, you end up finding yourself in a pretty solid situation. So these young rookies are out there. The free agent acquisitions are out there. And even some of the old wily vets are back. And Scott, I was looking ahead over there on FanDuel. And I know it's way too early. Like I said, it's OTA.
Oh, it's way too early, FanDuel, yeah.
Way too early for FanDuel. But if you do want to get in on this week one action, the Commanders are 4.5-point dogs on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles right now, with the over-under being 47.5. So take that for what it's worth. We don't even know what the offense is going to look like. We know Terry McLaurin's going to start. Larry Tunsil will start, and Jayden Daniels will start. But after that, it's all up in the air, man. It's all up in the air. But OTA season is here. And I'm excited for it.
Yeah, listen, usually you're right. We're like, it's not really football. Who cares? But when you have a brand new offensive coordinator who's a first-timer, right, running his own show, brand new defensive coordinator, first time running his own show, and you throw in the fact that your quarterback, who was such a rocket ship in year one, barely got on the field last year because of injuries, and now he's healthy. I don't know, man. I'm actually kind of juiced to see what we can see. You know what I mean? I think it is exciting and it's important. Place to start for this team, but you've been through these. You've lived it with a bunch of different franchises, and obviously now there's a little less time on the field. Like the offseason, a little different, a little softer than when you played back in the days. You guys were breaking rocks and hitting your heads against the wall just to get warmed up without helmets. But it still feels like it is more important this year than any of the seasons, frankly, since Dan Quinn's been here in this new regime.
Oh, 100%. And the schedule itself makes you show up and be ready to go. Obviously, last season was not what they were expecting for the Commanders. Down year, 5 wins, not what you wanted to be. You got rid of both of your coordinators, 2 new guys in the fold. So they actually want to come out and put a good first impression on the field for their teams, for the fans to be able to take part in. And frankly, when you're going against Philly, like, you can't come in here half-stepping. You can't come in here slowing and trying to feel your way out.
Right.
And this is the prime time where the learning is going to happen. Right? They've given them everything up in the meeting room. They've watched the film. They've watched the cut-ups. Now they have to take that learning and translate it to on the field. Who can actually be consistent day in and day out, rep in and rep out? Those are the ones who are going to actually start to separate themselves, because this is what do they call it on Masters? Movement Saturday, right?
Moving day.
Day. There it is. OTAs are like moving day. If you're able to stack some good days, get birdie, par. Next thing you know, when training camp rolls around, you have a slightly bigger role, and maybe you know who's going to be on your roster at that point.
Do you feel like the OTAs, when again you're in shells and helmets, there's no tackling, everybody stand up, is it more beneficial to a certain position group or certain sides of the ball than others?
That's a great question. I think that obviously with this great sport of football, anytime you get to add a little sprinkle of physicality, like some paprika, that changes it up a little bit. But I'll be remiss to say the defense is going to take it as close to, physical and they're not going to tackle. They may wrap up. They may thud. They're not going to take anybody to the ground, but they still need to show up and they still need to be in the right position. And then offensively, you still have to be able to make the catch with the defender right there in your hip pocket or where he could have made the hit. All right. So the good thing is that offensively you get to have that focus, but then you're also protected in the fact that you shouldn't get hit. And then on the defensive side, I want to see my guys showing up in the right spot. So ultimately OTAs for me, big mental game, right? Big mental game.
Right.
You're getting the weather is heating up. I was just in Oregon. It was like 60, 70 degrees. It was a
Wow.
breeze. I'm like, I could practice for 4 or 5 hours out here in
Right.
this.
No wonder those guys are always practicing.
Yeah,
They
man.
want to get 90 plays a game.
100%, right? So they got beautiful weather. Now OTAs are going to start heating up in the summer. I know it's been raining up there in Virginia, but it's going to be hot, humid. It's tiring. Can you go every single play? Can you make sure you're on your P's and Q's every single time, Scott? That's the key for OTAs. Who's going to make some moves?
But it does, though, feel like it is set up for offense, right? Like in terms of like throwing the football and those kind of things. The running backs, I guess you can see some things, but it's really not the same when they're not really, fully engaged in terms of defensive line versus the offensive line. It's, it's kind of like hold each other up and those kind of things. But I don't know. It just seems like this is like set up for people to see some wow, like Jayden throws to some of the new guys, right? Like that's like when they share it, like Team Social will put it out tomorrow, in the afternoon. Like we want to see some of these wow throws, there. And then at some point they'll give you a defensive play, but we won't see who the quarterback was that threw it. It's like got to be one of those things. Like, oh wait, Sanders still picked somebody off, right? I'll tell you who it was. But
like, who was it? Was it Jayden? Was it Ethan?
Right.
Actually, it was a coach.
Mariota, was it? Who knows? It was a jugs machine. Who cares? But we're just going to show it to you. I know, but yeah, it does feel like though it is more set up for the offense than the defense. I do remember like this was Rivera was there. It was like Rivera's last year maybe. There was one mini camp we went to, and there was a collision between Jeremy Reeves and De'Ami Brown. I mean, it was bad. Like it was not intentional, but I don't know if like somebody was in the wrong place. You know what I mean? I don't know what happened, but it was almost like they were surprised that the collision took place almost. Anyway, and like Brown was down for a while. It was not pretty. It was a little scary. He ended up being okay, but the Commanders then ended up losing or getting fined for physicality or something like that later in the offseason, or lost a day or some nonsense like that for it. But it was pretty wild, man. And like Rivera, he called the team and he was like yelling at guys and hey, you got to take care of yourselves out here. And then when of course you find out it's Reeves, you're like, well, they're not going to cut this guy. I mean, it's Jeremy Reeves. He ain't cutting this guy. I mean, nothing's going to happen to him, but you can yell in front of the team or whatever. But it is those things where I remember people saying you got to you got to take care of each other, right? Like Quinn says that, like they got to take care of each other out here to get the work in. So you don't want to see anybody trying to be a hero, right?
Yeah.
These things, but it's got to be tough for your defensive guy because you could blow somebody up. And
yeah,
instinct, right?
It takes some. You got to have some resistance and some reservation to not make that hit. And I totally understand it, but like also in the same breath. You think 3 years ago, man, Jeremy Reeves was probably fighting for his livelihood, right?
Exactly.
He was probably trying to make sure he could get on the field. And so there are times where you do need to go maybe take it a step further to make a play on the ball, right? Because, whereas we can sit here and say, oh, I would have made that play. When the receiver has the ball and he's running down the sideline, on the other side is, hey, he got burnt. So-and-so got burnt on this play. Yeah. So it cuts both ways, and then you have to be careful about what gets leaked to the media. And I say leaked, but, just what goes out.
This was like a wide-open session, so everybody saw it. It was like
that wide-open session. And the collisions, they end up happening some. The one you got to stay off of that quarterback. Don't touch anybody in those gold jerseys. Don't even try to reach in and say that you would have got to them because we don't need anything accidental to happen. But the OTAs are going to be tough to figure out, like your pass rush to your protection, because you just won't know until you're able to actually grapple them hands and put paws together. I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a Kaylavon Chason is just a name that flashes, each and every practice because of the fact that they won't have the pads. Even a Joshua Josephs may be a guy that can make some noise as well. So the cool thing about these, Scott, is that you kind of have to figure out, is it Fugazi or not? Like this is a game that these coaches and these scouts and these guys, even players, have to figure out, is it real or is it fake? Because OTAs, like you say, no physicality. There's going to be some guys that actually show up and shine. And that's big for them, especially I think about like receiver wise. There's going to be some guys who make some plays. And then the biggest question is going to be, can you do it when the pads come on? Can you do it when the game gets a little bit more physical? Are you able to focus and lock in then? But until those days, man, we just got to ride this one out, and let's see who can really make some plays.
All right. We are Believing Commanders podcast. Scott Jackson, Anthony Armstrong. Give us a like, comment, and subscribe, please, to the podcast brought to you by FanDuel. And as you heard Anthony say earlier, FanDuel right now has the Eagles in week 1, a 4.5-point favorite. That's fine. I hope it's 7 before kickoff, but, make it double digits, whatever. Keep these guys hungry and humble, right, before the season goes. But, all right, we've talked a lot about who could be added, this offseason, whether their last name is Diggs or an Ayuk on the wide receiver side of it. Cornerback has been a big discussion between us. But those, obviously, this is the week, right? These are the weeks that the receivers like a Treylon Burks, De'Ami Brown, the young guys, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, like Van Jefferson, the old vet. Like, these are the chances that these guys can go out there and show something. People not named Terry McLaurin to say, no, man, you don't need to mess with the Brandon Ayuk situation. You don't need to mess with Stephon Diggs. Like, we've got this. Like, what do you think? I mean, is that real to say that somebody can play well enough or do well enough at an OTA, even though we've already laid out the parameters that it's not totally real football, that they would back off of like adding a trusted veteran, so to speak?
I think so. I really do. And it's going to take some consistency, like I said earlier, each and every day, right? Because if you have to put tiers to the level of player, and this isn't a slight, this is just where you just have to rank them. If I give him 3 tiers, Terry McLaurin is at the top, right? He is your one. He's going to be there. Now, there's some other guys that you probably feel are going to be on the roster, but I'd put them in the tier 2 range, and that's the De'Amis, the Van Jeffersons, even Antonio Williams. I know he'll be on the roster, but he's still going to be in that 2 range. And I go even Luke, Jalen Lane. Those guys all fall into that category. Treylon Burks probably falls in that 2 category. After that, everybody else is in that tier 3. If you're in tier 3, you need to really be able to make sure every single rep is spot on. Even if it's just 1 rep, Scott, they got to make sure that they're running hard on the backside of a run play. They're hustling across the field to make a block. You have to find a way to show up on tape so that they can consider keeping you around. Tier 3 is also going to have to make some impact on special teams. But tier 2 is something to really pay attention to, right? So if you come into the season with a propensity of drops, right? If they know you as a guy who has inconsistent hands, they want to see if you're going to turn that tide, give them something else to believe in, and say, okay, he's been working on his hands. He's been making big catches every day. This could be a Treylon Burks. This could be a De'Ami Brown, right? It could be any of those guys. But like I say, stacking plays, that's going to be able to keep them from making the phone call to bring in an Ayuk or to bring in a Stephon Diggs, because frankly, they can do it at any point in time, right? They can do it at any point in time. So ideally, they can get through a couple of these camps, couple of these OTAs, and get maybe into the mini camp before they have to make that phone call. But I'm going to bank on these young guys showing up enough that's going to give them some confidence before they have to go and make one of those phone calls.
Yeah, and I got to imagine, too, the same thing for the secondary, right? It's the corners, like we've talked about. Maybe there's room to add a veteran there. Same thing for those guys, as you're watching these days, if they feel like there's an addition or, somebody to be brought in. And I would imagine guys like either one of the Diggs, Ayuk, if he ever gets free, per se, these guys, you're probably talking about training camp, right? You're probably not going to see them in the mini camps, et cetera. You might see them after the mandatory OTA or mandatory mini, whatever you call it. After that period, when something like that would take place with one of those type of players. But that's what's interesting to me. I mean, did you feel like for you, when you're going against guys in practice, could you see like maybe as a young guy or a new guy that you didn't know and you're on a team, you're like, oh man, this guy here who's covering me and I'm watching him in these OTAs and these mini camps, this guy is going to be a player for us this year. Maybe he wasn't, I don't know, considered high in the depth chart going into the process.
Man, honestly, I think that was me, not trying to pat myself on the back, but I was that guy that was showing up. Like, I'm at the bottom of the roster, right? They had the draft picks in the second round. They brought in the wily old vets and Joey Galloway and Roydell Williams, and they brought in a lot of names. But being able to just show up with my one superpower and put it on display each and every day, that helped me out, and it was my job to give those DBs fits, right? When I got a chance to go against a D'Angelo Hall, got to take advantage of it. You know what I mean? So that was me. But then also you'll start to see guys that just start to shine, and like when the special team drills show up, right? You start to see different guys separate
Yeah,
themselves there. And frankly, we're not privy to all of that. Special teams
sure.
usually happens in the middle of practices. So, we'll see how much they do out here. But yeah, that's what you just got to see who takes advantage of any of the opportunities that are given, man. That's the key. This is kind of like it's kind of like in the league is like you got to eat your vegetables sometimes, right? Before you can get on the
Right.
field on offense, you got to have this stack
Sure.
of this scoop of lima beans, okay? And the lima beans are you're going to be the gunner on punt, and
Right.
that's a horrible job, but it'll get you on the field if you're good at it, right? So you got to eat your pills, eat your beans, take your medication, and you can find yourself on that field.
Well, I want to get to somebody on this team I think is very interesting. Has been on the roster for a couple of years. In a minute, you mentioned Gunnar on punt, and made me think of him. But before that, I want to ask you: when you were playing, so you're making this impact early that year, right, with Shanahan's crew. Did you have like a D'Angelo Hall, one of these veterans in the secondary, go, oh, okay, I noticed you, 13, and like kind of talk you up and like work with you at all on stuff, or did you guys have any of that back and forth? And do you feel like veterans can advocate for the diamonds in the rough, if you will, to the coaches
Yeah.
sometimes?
Yeah. I can't think of a specific player, but like
Right.
once you beat somebody, they kind of have a little bit more respect for you, right?
Right.
Once the guys saw that I had some speed and I would run by them and away from them, they kind of like, all right, cool. I can't come up here lackadaisical, so they have to step their game up. It's a bit of we always say iron sharpens iron, right?
Right.
And frankly, nobody wants to go up there and have an easy rep. I mean, maybe two vets will do that later on in training camp. They're like,
Right.
hey,
Right.
I'm about to run this slant and let's get our reps and get the hell out the way. But when you go up there and you understand you're going up against a younger player, as an older guy, hey, I got to bring my A game because they're evaluating me too. You know what I mean? They're evaluating that secondary as well as the offensive side. So all the vets, they tend to kind of lean on you a little bit more and kind of speak to you a little bit more as you garner their respect. So I'm excited to see how those relationships grow.
We're here on the Believe in Commanders podcast, brought to you by FanDuel. Scott Jackson, Anthony Armstrong, part of the Believe Network. And again, please subscribe, like, comment, and follow us. And always leave a comment, fine as well. All right, so Tyler Owens is a fascinating player to me on this team because if you do the numbers, you're like, I don't know, is he on the roster again this year? Is he on the wrong side of the bubble? You just don't know. Or you could say he might have a role because, again, we're talking clean slate, Durante Jones. Guys, like, again, physically, like, he's long, he's tough, he hits you, he's been very good on special teams. I think he's a guy that will be interesting to hear about in these OTAs to see, like, kind of where he's mixing in, getting rep-wise, and is he somebody that could have a real role in this defense, or, again, like you were just mentioning, being a gunner on special teams, having that role as, like, a core special teamer, and that's the only gateway to the roster.
I would lead with him being a core special teamer, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, right? You have to find your way onto the 53 one way or the other, and if it means covering kicks and doing things on the other third of the game, then so be it. Nobody complains about it. They all count towards your final, your pension and all that stuff. But I think that would be his way on the field now.
Sure.
And now, if they learn that they can trust him in the moments that he's put on the field. In the defensive capacity, then that helps his case, right? If he's able to show up and tackle, right, that helps your case. Anytime you can just do those fundamentals, it really changes the game for you. And I think about Reed Dowdy, old safety from long time ago. And now, mind you, I want to say Reed was an athlete, but I think Tyler Owens is probably more athletic, right? Has more physical traits than Reed Dowdy, but Reed was reliable. He was going to be in position to make a tackle. He would make a play from time to time, and he did everything he needed on special teams. So that's probably where he's going to fall, right? Somebody that's going to be a 3 or 4 teamer that can affect the game that way. And if you can get him some spot play on the secondary in defensive formations, maybe running or coming up covering some people, just another way to check the box. So Tyler Owens is a guy to pay attention to. I like that name, Scott. I will keep my eye on the Red Raider.
Well, listen, you got Nick Cross. He's going to be a starter. You brought him in from the Colts. Really, really good player, really athletic. Will Harris, the wily vet who missed a lot of last season and really was probably part of the kind of the downfall of the defensive secondary when he was out. But gives you some stability. We've talked a ton about Quan Martin. Where does he fit does he fit right in this scenario? Jeremy Reeves, you know what you're getting from him when he comes in. Percy Butler, also another really good special teamer. But I think like Owens and Butler are kind of in the same area, right? Like they're probably hanging around that third team, but can they move up, any beyond that and be more than just special teamers? I know they signed Butler to an extension last year, so he's got a little bit of stability in that sense. But, look, it's going to be a competition, right? And you kind of go from there and see how it goes. But, again, that was just somebody that jumped out to me the other day. We were thinking about it. I was like, this was a guy who made it as an undrafted guy, 2 years ago, and you really felt like, okay, let's see. But, with the way they want to attack the line of scrimmage and attack the football, like with his length and his range, you would think that he could be somebody. And I want to say Durante Jones may have even mentioned him when he did his opening presser. He named all these young players, many of which were getting playing time, honestly, which was kind of interesting. Not all of them, at least. And then, talked about what he liked about the team. So I don't know. They're just somebody I thought about the other day. So that'll be fascinating when we get, kind of deeper into this thing for hearing his name pop up a little bit more. Because you said, I think you said something earlier that we probably should mention. Because there's certain veterans that are not going to really be unloading in this thing, right? Like there's certain guys that are going to probably cool the engines on, right? Like, hey, we know what you could do. Let's let these young guys get out there and kind of get a feel for it, right? Like, so they're going to maybe really throw in the reps on some of these younger guys as you're going to let some of these veterans, take it back a step or two in the beginning of this thing.
I went and looked at Tyler Owens' 40 time, 4.3.
Yeah.
4.30.
Yeah, big dude. Yeah, he's a big
6'2",
dude.
213.
Yeah.
Fast, physical. He's going to bring a lot of traits, and when you think about it, like I would assume they're going to go and say, okay, we've got a guy who hasn't played a whole lot of ball, but he's got some physical traits. And then, like I've said it before, they've only got 4, maybe 5 spots for safeties, right? And then probably 5 corners. So that's 10. And then at the high end, maybe it's 12 total in that whole secondary that's going to actually go. And 1 or 2 of those guys may not even be active. So you got to play the number game. Got to play the number game now. Right. Figure out where you fall and figure out how you're going to get on the field. Because the starting safeties will probably play 1 or 2 special teams, but they ain't going to be out there for all 4. You know what I mean?
No,
they're not going to be out there for all 4. So this is a way to separate yourself. This is the time to do it. It's the cool thing, Scott, is that most of the time the guys that come in that have to play special teams, they hadn't had to tackle. They haven't had to do those type of drills in a really long time. So that ends up being a plus for them if you can make that transition and be a well-rounded football player.
All right, I got one for you before we go. You know what I think might be this is going to sound funny, the most important roster battle on this roster?
What you got?
Place kicker. Because they're going to actually have a real situation with Jake Moody and Drew Stevens, who is an excellent collegiate kicker. We haven't really had they've kind of presented kickers. This is our guy, but they have been through so many kickers. I mean, it's insane how many kickers this franchise has been through over the last several years, let alone, honestly, if you want to go way back to when Chip Lohmiller was the Super Bowl kicker. I mean, it's been, we talk about quarterbacks here. I mean, the kicking thing has been wild. For a franchise that, I grew up watching Mark Mosley win an MVP. How ridiculous is that as a place kicker? And then again, Lohmiller was steady. And they always had, it's not something you really worried about. But suddenly, the kicking thing has been oh, my gosh, can you find a consistent kicker? And they're actually going to let these 2 guys battle it out, which I think is encouraging. Yeah. Because I think you need to really push it and test everything you can here. And if, God forbid, they're both bad, then gives you time to go out and, find another option. You know what I mean? You don't want that to happen, but I'm just saying you got to be open to anything because the place kicking thing, man. Remember 2 seasons ago, even that playoff run, how they had to go through the kickers and the injury, and then Zane came in and kind of steadied it. But it was kind of weird. I thought Zane was fine, and I get it. He doinked the one and the win it against the Buccaneers was a little scary, but overall I thought Gonzalez was pretty good. But they didn't even bring him back, so. Hopefully they've got a good kicking battle coming up, but that is very important.
You ain't lying.
With the margins being as thin as they are.
And it changes how you watch the game. I tell you that much because you used to think used to be like, hey, touchdown, extra point coming up. Let me run to the restroom right quick, Scott.
Right.
Then, no, nowadays you'll come back and be like, hey, what happened? Where's the extra point? They be like, oh, they actually shanked it. Yeah, we don't want that. It used to be so nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and in this day and age in the NFL, when you got guys like booting them 60 yards plus, like it's no big deal. Like it's such a weapon, right? Like the Cowboys have such a weapon in Brendan Aubrey. Jacksonville's got a weapon in Little. The Chargers, Dicker doesn't miss. I mean, so you got these guys that are so consistently good, and this team, it kind of makes it weird when you get in the like at a low, like 38 to 42 yard line. You're like, I don't know, man, we can really make this kick or not. We, may get forced to go with more fourth downs, which is not always bad if you're converting well, but it's also unfortunate you're leaving points out on the field because you can't trust your kicker.
Yeah, we're going to follow up. You mentioned the fourth downs. Is that a point where you like, hey, maybe we need to go get Stephon Diggs? We got to find somebody that can get off and run this slant on 4th and 3, 4th and 4, add some more pressure there. So that's gonna be something to navigate, right? If you feel confident in your kicker, now you don't have to be as aggressive on the offensive side, maybe not go for it as much. Don't have to roll the dice as much, but it's going to be something to see as the Commanders are chasing 7.5 wins on the season over there at FanDuel. Definitely want to get that over if we can. Y'all can play those numbers. Well over would be great. Damn right. Shoot, I need to see that. But yeah, that's what we got. OTAs are going on. Mini camp is coming up soon. Football is right around the corner. I saw a post that said we're right in the middle of the football desert. We're in the middle of the football desert.
Right in the middle of we're actually now on the other side of the football desert, getting closer to the halfway mark of the offseason, which is great. All right, that'll do it for us this week. We'll come back later this week and recap the OTAs with some on-field discussion. Anthony Armstrong is at Rated Armstrong in the X. I'm at Jackson Sports. Give us a follow there. Believe in Commanders podcast brought to you by FanDuel. We are part of the Believe Network. Again, subscribe, like, comment, and follow. We appreciate your time today. Until next time, have a good one.